So today we are going to be checking out a scenario where civilization starts over. We are now on episode 21 of our series, and in the last episode, if you've not seen it, we saw the total division of both Africa and Australia, the weakening of multiple African states, and a brand new list of the top 10 strongest powers. If you guys do enjoy today's scenario, then please consider liking and subscribing. We are on the road to 1,500 subscribers by the end of the year. And yeah, I actually just came up with that. If we can hit 1,500 subscribers by the end of the year, I will be very happy. So first of all, there is a glaring, thing here that Africa is fully divided up. We had European powers basically taking over 95% of the continent, with some, exceptions. You could be questioning if the protectorate states are a independent country or not, and the answer is they are, but it's a little complicated. The protectorate states are more of a district of the colonial power. For example, South Africa, they still have a capital, they still run under their jurisdiction, it's just that jurisdiction is overlooked by the Benelux jurisdiction. But these guys, they are not influenced by either the Iberians or the Portuguese, so they are their own sovereign nation. So that just was a little something I wanted to get out of the way. So now we can actually get into some activities in this scenario. And first, I'm going to be starting over here in the Caspian Sea. Of course, if we look at the military alliances, in the past couple of episodes, this area has seemed to die down a little bit. But it is going to start to heat up immensely. But we are going to see the addition of a couple countries into the Diamond Alliance. That is going to be the Lebanese country. These guys are a common ally of the Brown team, as they have been invaded and at war with the Egyptians so many times. But the other country that we see joining the Diamond Alliance is going to be this dark purple nation over here. They are on the border of Russia, and Russia is an imperialist state, so they do just want some clarification that they will be safe from that. But now going over here to the Trapezoid Alliance, there's a little something I need to reveal. This is, well, of course, if you see the shape, it's the Trapezoid Alliance, and it is made between the allies of the Red Team. Of course, when I told you all about the Orange Team, Purple Team beef, the Orange Team was kind of like the grandson of the Red Team, since the Red Team had the Purple Team, and the Purple Team had the Orange Team. And they both don't like the Purple Team, so henceforth they will be a common ally of each other. These guys were a funded group that were funded away from the Bengal country, and the Lime Team has been a pretty prominent ally of the Red Team ever since episode 1. But this alliance is going to start to expand, and not with the best intents in mind. They're going to expand to one country that is going to be the South Arabian Union. That is, of course, because of the Western Arabian expansion, or should I just call them Arabian, because they're not really Western anymore. They have been expanding rapidly into the Qatari country, but were limited by the Danish country with their colony. And overall, the Western Arabians have put them in the position of a threat. So naturally, the Orange Team, Egypt, and the South Arabian Union preemptively are going to join a militaristic alliance with a strong forefather, being Anatolia and India. But protection is not the main focus behind the Indian alliance, as if you see it over here, this is a little bit of a Cold War scenario. It is between the Diamond and the Square Alliance. This has been a prominent thing for quite a while. But the Red Team is hoping to shift the power of balance and try and turn it into a tripolar system. Now, I know I'm pretty much ripping a page out of Ada's prose book with the entire Cold War, but this is just realistically what would happen with the nature of the Red Team. And their intents are going to try to be, take down the Square Team and the Diamond Alliance. According to the Trapezoid Alliance, you both suck. And of course, that information is not publicly known, but the Red Team is preemptively taking these actions to try and make this into a tripolar system for their own benefit. And Purple Persia is basically in the midst of all of this, being bordered by every single alliance state. But, like 20 seconds ago, I was talking about Western Arabia. Yeah, the South Arabian Union had a reason to join this alliance. And then, of course, I was talking about their expansionist government. And they are not going to stop. They are going to invade into Mesopotamia. Now, if you remember, like, a really long time ago, like 10 episodes ago, there was a pink Mesopotamian country that was over here. And eventually, with their collapse, their successor was this blue country. And that blue country is really interested in bringing back the fame of Mesopotamia, because of course they were a breakaway of Purple Persia, and they have fallen to this. Of course, the blue Mesopotamians aren't the same government, but they are the same sort of idea of Mesopotamia. While these guys, who are more better referred to as Kuwait, they are more of a placeholder set up by Purple Persia, and the Blue Team wants to bring power back to Mesopotamia. But soon enough, basically all of the Kuwaiti border states are going to join in. We see the South Caspians are going to join, and these guys are surprisingly strong. They do have the backing of one of the strongest military alliances in the world, of course being the Diamond Alliance. But interestingly enough, they are working in close relations with the Western Arabians and the Blue Mesopotamians, who are unaligned to this point. And the South Caspian's only goal was to reach, Red Sea, Persian Gulf. Keep getting my Gulfs mixed up. Because, like, this is the Red Sea, and this is the Persian Gulf, obviously, because Persia is here. But I'm not quite sure why it's called the Red Sea. So somebody go in the comments and please tell me why it is called the Red Sea. But going back to the actual war at hand, the Western Arabians are just going to pummel over Kuwait, and now we can take a look at a peace treaty between the invading states. Alright, and this is what we see our peace treaty looking like. It is quite simple, and of course, with the Kuwait country being colored in white, that means that they are going to not exist in a couple seconds. But going over here to the South Caspian gains, they are going to be expanding south, now actually bordering the Persian Gulf. Jeez, I'm not very good at this. But with these guys taking their, aspirational territory, the Blue Mesopotamians will take this, and of course, this is not all the territory they would have wanted. But as you can see, it has a lot of population based off the states and that there's a major city there. But they're going to do something. Just give me a sec. And the Western Arabians are going to take the entire south of the country. Not too much to that. But now Mesopotamia is being urged to join an alliance. But right before they do anything with that, they are going to redeclare the state of Mesopotamia. That of course means that their color is going to shift to a light pink. And their goal is to take back all of the old territories. Alright, just for a little bit of context, this is a map from episode 5 of my series. And you can see that pink Mesopotamia is right over here, along with some other colors you might recognize. Of course, the Western Arabians, the Orange Country. This is kind of just like one of the older maps. So that was just for a little bit of context to see where this restoration is coming from. But going away from that, we are going to be going back over here to Eastern Asia, and there is something I have to get rid of. This little pact that Korea, China, and Sakhalin had, this is now going to expire. Of course, it only lasted for a limited amount of time. The treaty outlining the cooperation between Sakhalin, Korea, and China, it only stated that the alliance lasted for about 10 years, and it has been 10 years. Well, not 10 years, probably actually a lot more now that I'm premonitionally actually thinking about it. It probably lasted for about maybe 70 years? That sounds about right. And yeah, these guys are now free to invade each other. So I could just say, if I really wanted to, Korea could just be taking China. And yeah, they actually just did. So with the Korean annexation of China, there is going to be a lot of deliberation between Nah, I'm not doing that. But we're actually not going to be straying far. We're going to be going over here to southern China, where we see a war happening. These orange guys are going to be invading into the pink team. Now, you might see that this is very random, and you would be correct. This is extremely random. But it's important, trust me. They're mainly going to invade into the mainland, not really trying to tackle the coast, because this is one of the most populated areas in the world. Of course, the most populated area is probably this peninsula, because this is where civilization started, or Shandong, somewhere around there, probably similar to real life. But this is a very similarly populated area, and that is going to be demonstrated with the orange team only going for the center rural areas. And the orange government is kind of the first one we see that has communistic idealistics. Now, I hope that sentence made sense, because it didn't really make sense to me, but it's more leaning towards a communist state. And of course, the rural people out here, the idea of communism will not go unbeknownst to this world. Because of course this is an alternate timeline of civilization, but these ideas are still kind of shared between in and out of different realities. So communism is still going to be an idea over here in South China. As you saw, there was a massive encirclement and a capturing of a major city, but they're going to be going down here to get to this gulf, which I should know the name of. And they're going to start to invade out west before we see a rebellion actually breaking out over here. And they're just going to look like that. And this is the exact same color as the South Chinese country that was here a while ago. Not same government, just, color, yeah. Oh look, the capital was captured and now the entire thing is captured. And with the entire thing being captured, we can see a culmination of a peace treaty between the Orange team, the rebels, and South China. Alright, and this is what we see our peace treaty looking like. We see that the rebellion and the orange team kind of got their way with China. So the rebellion will be appearing over here. And now we are also going to be seeing orange Chinese gains down over here in the South China areas. And of course, with a new nation, they need a capital. So they are going to place it in they're going to put it right here. Because guess what? I just decided that a major city is also going to be over there, so problem solved. And now we have the expansion, fall, and birth of new nations over here in South China. But this is also going to come with a union. These two, they're really weak. Now, of course, they're not going to be unionizing. That's going to be pretty counterintuitive to the war that South China just fought. but it is going to be between the South Chinese and the dark purple country. Now, this is going to look horrible, but it's something that would happen. They are going to be remaining under the color of pink China, and their administrative capital is going to be in the capital of pink China. And no, I'm not that evil. I'm going to give them a little bit of territory by these like corridor areas. Of course, this border over here was just made, so it's not too unrealistic to see them shift a little bit. But say hello to the new South China. Horrible and disgusting. But it's okay. It's the early ages. We can live. But now going over here to Northern Africa, I know that was a pretty big shift from South China, but in Northern Africa, these two states, their economies are going to absolutely crash. Morocco's is going to happen with the stock market, and Numidia cannot handle their own existence. And in this case, they are going to become protectorate states of both Portugal and Northern Italy. Now, these are a lot different than the protective states that I've shown in the past episode. I said that this was a protectorate state, like this was a protectorate state, but these are just the actual countries, with, like I said, the jurisdiction being overlooked by Benelux officials. But these are protectorate states as they have a lot more autonomy from their colonial forefather, but it's just more of a free kind of situation. Of course, they were invaded by these countries, but with their collapse, it's being handled a lot better than it would have been without the colonial powers. So these guys are going to become protectorate states, and now basically the entirety of Africa is under European, influence, except Tanzania, or Kenya, not really sure, Victoria. I can't remember my own series lore. And also, I really want this to stay European, so let's keep the line perfectly straight, thank you. And yeah, even after the Barcelona conference, we are going to see European expansion is going to be imminent in Africa, but even more so inside of North America, and South America, but whatever. Some Iberian explorers are going to go down here to the Uruguay River, and they're going to discover a lot of these areas. They get down to the Argentinian areas, in which they stop because it is pretty marshy down here and dry, and instead they're going to try and go into the Amazon rainforest. And the Amazon rainforest sucks, so they're not going to go in anymore. Of course, now they're going to establish port colonies, connecting it up with the main Iberian colony. Now, I know I interchangeably call these guys Catalonia and Iberia, but just both of the names, they mean this. This is Catalonia and Iberia. But we are going to see the ships of a brand new power get over here in South America, and they are not new to colonialism. Will you shut the fuck? Alright, so sorry for the interruption, but a country that is not unfamiliar to colonization is going to land in the Americas, and they're going to land over here between the areas of Chile and Peru. They land over here in this bay, and they are going to establish a, area of, what they know. And as you can see, they are surrounded completely by gray territory, so they think this is a brand new continent. And they're going to establish a colony, and of course, this is China. Now, according to China, they think that this brand new continent looks a little something like this. This is probably, if I color it in, this is what they think the continent looks like, but of course this is overshadowed by the existence of South America. But they are going to expand into it like it is a brand new continent because they think it is. They expand their colonial assets further, and if I'm not, mistaken, I do think that this area has, some gold. But eventually they are going to gain, connections between the Drake Passage. So their boats are going to go around, and eventually one is going to stop here in southern Argentina and discover this area. And they do believe that this is the same fictional continent that China has landed on, so they're going to treat it as such. But then they go a little bit north, and they run into Iberians, and they're like, wait a minute, if this is a new continent, then why are we, not alone? And that's because, well, it's not a new continent. China will establish a very small colony over here in the Drake Passage, not suitable for kids, and they're also going to discover and colonize the Falklands. They go a little bit north, not too much though, and that is because China's dreams of a brand new continent has been crushed. Now, of course, they're still going to expand because this is a pretty, material dense area, and they're going to expand their colony massively here on the western coast of South America, and the Americas are looking pretty explored. Eventually, the Catalonians are going to go down here, the coast of Ecuador, and they're going to meet up with the Chinese here in the west, and now pretty much all that is in their way is the Amazon rainforest, as now the explorers in the south have gone up the western coast and connected up, and they have basically discovered the entirety of Argentina. And now there is not much between the world and complete colonization of South America. The Chinese, they take a little bit more. They go up to this very small gulf up here, and they are going to stop there. They're going to expand down in a preemptive act to try and connect up with their colony. And eventually, yeah, they're just, it's all explored. They know. They probably have the technology to do it by now. If civilization at this point could go into a Siberia, and like Vietnam, then I'm not that sure if they would have any troubles here in South America. But civilization now also has the technology to go into northern Canada, but not too far because Nunavut is very icy and depressing. So basically everywhere in Canada is going to be discovered except these very far north islands. But we're going to see Denmark expand their colony a little bit, and this is because they have been left with a lot of funds from their African colony. Of course, the places that Denmark has been exploring and colonizing thus far have not really been resource intensive, and Denmark finds themselves with a lot of cha-ching. But we're going to see one final country landing over here in South America. This is going to be a colonial power, of course, and that is going to be France. Now, this is kind of like the situation where the United Kingdom owned Guyana for a while in their empire. In like the 1920s, they did have administrative control over Guyana. And this is kind of similar to that. No one really knows why France is here, but, you know, they're not going to argue with it. But yeah, basically now the entirety of the Americas are discovered except this little area up here. And yeah, that's going to be done very soon because this is not very far from this, which is prominently, you know, people live there. And just to, you know, prove that, Denmark is going to colonize further up into this island, which I should definitely know the name of. It's pretty massive. But now with a lot more land over here, we're going to see a division of Central North America. And we are going to see the Chinese. They're going to take all of the land up to here. Like I said a couple episodes ago, these are claims, not the actual colony. It was the same thing with the UK. I know I'm mentioning them a lot. But, you know, they had their entire colony up in here in, like, North America. It was very big, and the actual colony was, like, only this. And with China expanding all into here, their actual colony is only, like, this. This is probably what their colony looks like. But now we are going to see the Portuguese are going to expand their colony as well, and this is just going to go a little something like that. And, of course, when it comes to claims, it doesn't actually mean that the country owns the territory. It just means that they are, you know, laying claim to it. So don't go in the comments, please. This is pre-recorded. Don't yell at me. Yell at future me. But with that awful border over here in Mexico, I'm probably going to fix that a little later. We're going to see Hokkaido making their claim, and of course it is going to be a straight line. It's going to go all the way over here, and it is going to go then south. And this is a part of a mandate that they're, you know, setting up. And eventually that is going to create the awful ambiguation of this. What are we doing? I know British Columbia has a lot of, like, gold and stuff like that, but come on. This is not okay. Look, what's this? This was not necessary. But anyways, China will be taking the rest of this little panhandle of the explored territory, and now North America is basically entirely divided up, at least the continental United States is. And actually, just to get it out of the way, France is going to make a very big claim, and that will look like this. Once again, with the straight border, not very good, but, you know, it is a historical thing that happened. And now we basically see the entirety of North America being filled. Of course, Hokkaido can only expand so big. They're just on the Japanese Isles, but, you know, they're getting there. But now we're going to have a couple events over here inside of Europe. The British Isles, they're going to be exploding a little bit. You know, this area that was just like literally a couple episodes controlled by Scotland, and yeah, that's going to be breaking away. But we also see a different section of Scotland breaking away, and that is going to be their north. And Scotland was actually in support of the Irish area, this area. They wanted that to get their independence because they knew that they couldn't hold on to it. But, yeah, now that's going to lead to these guys breaking away, and that's not very good, and I just realized I want this to be over here. So the Northern Irish will have their capital here, and they are a good ally of the Scottish, but the Northern Scottish are now not allies of the Scottish. This is because that the Scottish breakaway was, you know, violent. But yeah, British Isles update looks a little something like that. Now going over here to Greenland, we are going to see increased exploration into the island. Like I said, Denmark found themselves with a lot of money, so they are able to push up into here, taking these areas. And Norway will be expanding too. They have kind of slowed down on the imperial route, but, you know, they're just trying to grow themselves and their economy, so yeah, good for them. Going down over here too, these guys, I have seen a lot of suggestions for them to unite, but I don't really see that happening. That is because, one, they are under different religions, which are completely different from each other, and I actually really do need to update this map, because it is very outdated. And yeah, they'll probably be updated by episode 22. But we are going to see a first inside of our series. This is going to be a new layer that I'm making, and these are going to be economic alliances. And we're going to see the first one appearing over here in Eastern Asia, and this is going to be between China, Korea, and Sakhalin. And, of course, it might not be here physically on the map, but this, like, non-aggression pact is still there. They've just mutually agreed to not fight each other, and, yeah, it's It's pretty good for the world. And instead of fighting, they have formed an economic alliance, which is free for anybody to join. Now, one country we see immediately joining is going to be the South Chinese Union over here, but the orange team is going to be specifically not, able to join the alliance, so we see that they're kind of secluded away from the alliance members, and that is because, like I said, they're communistic idealistics. No one's really allowed to get rich. But Sakhalin, Korea, China, and South China, the Union, they have one thing in common, and that is that they are all economically focused oligarchies. And yeah, that means that elites are programmed into the government, and that is going to be a major differ between them and the orange country in South China. But that will do it for today's scenario of what if civilization started over. I hope you guys did enjoy. This video is probably going to be a bit longer. I'm not sure if you guys like that or not, but I like making longer videos, so that's probably something that I'm going to start doing in the future because, well, we're in the midst of the civilization series, and you want to create lore right now because, of course, when It Is Pro's World War V came out, I'm not sure if it's a popular opinion, but I feel like it was a little bit underdeveloped, and all of the beef between America and China in World War V was kind of hidden lore that we weren't able to see. So kind of just shifting my focus to making longer civilization videos, that's going to be something that I'm going to do. But also just a little update that the non-Wixo videos are just, not my civilization videos. They're probably going to be around shifting in the 15-16 minute mark. That is because naturally they are shorter, but the civilization countries series, these episodes, I want to aim for them to be at least 20 minutes each. But yeah, that's all from me. If you guys did enjoy them, please consider liking and subscribing. Remember, we're trying to get to 1,500 by the end of the year, and I will see you guys in tomorrow's video.